All right, let's dive in and take a look at the course track. Now, I'm going to mention that the course track we're going to look at here is the one from a current cohort. By the time you jump into your cohort, things might have shifted around a little bit, but this will be a pretty close reading on what you'll experience. So let me explain, first of all, just even how to look at this thing. Those squares each represent a 5-week evening class, so they meet once a week for 5 weeks, 3 hours per night, a total of 15 hours. Some of them, like Capstone and Portfolio Lab, you see down at the end, those are actually 10-week classes, 3 hours a week, 30 hours in total. The smaller squares are weekend workshops. And the reason they're overlapped is because we typically do 2 weeks in a row, 2 consecutive Saturdays. These often meet from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time, whereas the evening classes meet from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific time. And then down at the very bottom, you see those open rectangles. Those represent 90-minute career skill talks. And those happen at least once a quarter. We're kind of stacking them up lately, so there's probably going to be more like 2 or 3 of them. But they're on any kind of topic that's related to helping you get a job. So let us now walk through this a step at a time, and I'll explain our classes to you. So we're going to look at this top row first, those core topics. And the first class we're going to look at is user research. So one thing you're going to notice is that dotted line that connects those first 5 classes. That dotted line is echoing the product design process that we not only teach it, but this is the process that is in use at practically every tech firm and any kind of firm that has a user experience or user-centered design department. And so there's always a research step which informs the planning that you're going to do, how you're going to organize the information. You're then going to have a design phase, which will turn into a prototype that you can then go test in front of those original people that you researched at the beginning and see if there were any problems in your assumptions. If there were, you see this line coming back, that means, okay, we got to do a little redesign, re-prototype, and retest again until we get it right. So indeed, in that research class, you will be learning the rudiments of user research, which will include doing interviews, and you'll learn interviewing techniques and how to write a research plan and report your findings. The next class in the track is information architecture. So you've been on websites, you know that some of them just hold a tremendous amount of information. You've got to get it organized in such a way that people can find what they are looking for in a logical fashion. So information architecture touches heavily on navigation, as you would expect. So this is a 5-week course devoted strictly to that. The next class in the sequence is interaction design. Now, interaction design is really the nuts and bolts of UX design, but also content design. Anything that we do on a computer or on a phone, we have to physically touch it or say something to it, right? And so how we transmit our wishes for what we want to see happen to that device happens through one of these UI controls. And it could be a toggle switch, it could be a drop-down menu, it could be a slider, it could be a button, any of those things. In this class, we learn how each of them function and which ones are most appropriate for the interaction you've designed in. It's important for the content designers to learn this as well, because you have to write the words that explain how to use this feature. So we'll spend a fair amount of time on just understanding these UI controls. The next step is to prototype our design. And what you see here is an animation of somebody designing a prototype using Figma. And once this has been designed, it then can work pretty much like the finished app. And you can put it back in front of someone during the usability testing class and say, go ahead and try this, book that flight to Chicago, order that pizza. It should take you no more than about 17 seconds. Let's see how it goes. And this is where flaws in your thinking come to light. You can then go redesign and reusability test, as you see going on here. The next class in the sequence is the capstone class. It's the one that we spoke about earlier, where you will be doing work for a real client. And that's the case here with Shunpike. This was a nonprofit organization, an arts organization that was looking for some help re-architecting their website. Well, by the time all was said and done, they not only liked the architecture the students recommended to them, they liked the whole thing. And so this website, which you can go visit, is really pretty much entirely the work of an SVC capstone class team. The course that comes after this is Portfolio Lab. That's a 10-week class where you will put the projects you've done together, both on a website, your portfolio website, but also in a deck, which is the deck you're going to use when you're giving an interview or job interview presentation. And so just like Basma here is doing, she's presenting to a group of very senior UX designers in her final Portfolio Lab class. They're going to be scoring the live presentation she's giving here. They're also going to be taking a look at her website and scoring that. And it's that aggregated score between both her portfolio and her presentation, and also what the other evaluators have seen, that is what determines if she will earn her certificate. And the good news I can share with you is that 97% plus of the students going through the program do earn their certificate. What happens to the ones that don't? If they want, we will keep them in the program. They can take some classes over and represent and earn their certificate that way. All right, now let's take a look at the track that is for those students who are specializing in UX design. The first class that they'll take is a 5-week class called Soft Skills. And it is kind of like the name implies, it's everything but the technical skills involved in doing your job. So it's how to be a good collaborator, how to give criticism in a graceful way, how to accept it in a graceful way, how to manage your time, how to stand up and present your ideas. So all that gets covered in the soft skills class. Then UX designers move from that into a workshop on sketching for UX, because in UX design, a lot of the brainstorming is still done with pencil and paper. And there are specific ways of indicating a movement, a concept with your sketches that you need to know about. So that's what you'll learn in this workshop. For those of you who are entering this program without a graphic design background, this class is going to get you up to speed in terms of visual design, where we'll learn about typography, color, layout, imagery. So why? So the prototypes that you build will be also attractive, and then you can apply this same learning to your own website, as well as to the interview deck that you're going to be building. UX designers also take a 5-week class on advanced research topics. And this is where we can go beyond those one-on-one interviews and give you some background on how you do a large-scale qualitative as well as quantitative study, where you really want to have some statistical measurement you can rely upon. There are also specialized courses for those pursuing content design. And they start with the soft skills class, but then move to a 2-part workshop on content strategy. Content strategy is like at the highest level of work done with words on a website or app. And so the content strategists are making sure that everything on any company's digital arsenal is speaking with the same voice and making the same points, and maybe even using the same kind of words to describe something. And so they, as I say, they sit at this very high level and kind of bind all the individual pieces together. One of the things that falls under the realm of the microcopy and writing for UI class is writing things like this. These are called error messages. And when they're done wrong, we've all seen them. We know how frustrating they can be because we don't know what to do next. But when they're done right, they're comforting, they don't make you feel stupid, and they do tell you what to do next. So things like error messages, UI controls, empty states, this is all the type of practice that we learn in this class of microcopy. And you look at any app or any website, there's microcopy all over it. And essentially, it's any words that you see that are not marketing something to you, but telling you how to use the app or the website. That's microcopy. That falls under the realm of the content designer. In the next class, voice and tone, we talk about just that, which is every company will have a voice because they want it to properly reflect their brand personality. But that doesn't mean you can use it without deterring at all based on the situation. So you might have a company that has a little bit more of a casual tone. Maybe you're doing a website for Disneyland, let's say. But that's the voice, and that stays the same. But the tone might alter depending on what you're talking about at the moment. So if you're saying to people, congratulations, you're signed up, your tickets will be emailed to you, that can have a very casual and jubilant tone to it. But if the message you're communicating is, sorry, we had to reject your credit card, that's not an appropriate place for fun. And so you might move towards a more serious tone at that point. So that's what we look at in voice and tone. But we look at one other issue, which is conversion. So this may not come as a surprise, but the words that you choose can make a difference in the extent to which people interact with your website or app. This is an example from Google. They have a hotel booking feature on Google. And when the copy said book a room, it was doing fine. But when they experimented with check availability, the number of conversions went up by 17%. That stands to reason. Check availability is a little less definitive, right? You don't feel like you're committing yourself quite as deeply. And so by playing with those words and testing what you do, you can be responsible for helping your client or company experience a greater conversion rate. And that's pretty important. That's what they're after. Well, now we drop down to the workshops that both students take, whether they're focusing on UX design or content design. The first one in this series is on Figma. And Figma is prototyping software where you can build a website or an app, or at least a model of one that looks pretty darn close and works in pretty much the same way as the final product. But you've done this without getting a developer involved, which is the expensive and can be slow part of building a digital product. So as a designer and as a whether it's content design or UX design, we can build these very realistic models of what the final product will be like. And then we submit them for usability testing. The next workshop is called Design Systems. Design systems are a relatively new advance in the world of user-centered design. As you can imagine, large companies that have many divisions don't want everything to be different. They don't want every designer working on it to come up with their own idea, let's say, for a button. And so these design systems really act like the master cookbook, in which if you need a button or you need a drop-down menu or you need a map or you need the words to describe how to use a drop-down menu or a map, they very well may be already there for you to go glean from the design system. And as an entry-level designer, it's not so likely you're going to be contributing to the design system, but it's highly likely you're going to be drawing from it. There's also a two-part workshop on presentation skills. And to complete the program, you're going to be giving a presentation of your own portfolio. So good to know some of the rules of the road for giving a good presentation. But once you're in the field, that's about all you're going to be doing, is communicating your ideas with the written word and also standing up in front of people and expressing your ideas that way. So hence this two-part workshop on how to be a better presenter. This workshop is on how to write case studies. And case studies are the specific way that within the design industry, people talk about their projects. And they're not tightly formatted, but there is a certain method for walking people through a project. We're going to show you what that is and give you some practice at that. And now we get down to the bottom line. So these are the career skills talks that we do throughout the quarter. They may touch on how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, how to do an interview, how to write a cover letter. They can go anywhere, but as long as it has to do with helping you and improving your chances to land a job, we will touch on those topics. So all this then is about getting a job. And that's the next video where we're going to talk about how that all comes together.